This is where we need to ensure that you know what is happening in the country, in the world of politics, in the world of what we call socio-economic transformation. We need to ensure that we also touch something in line to that social aspect. That is where we as West Nile Television want to make sure that you are captured in all spheres of life. We don't want to leave you untouched, where also really you could be going through some of the problems. We are saying all in all, do not give up with that problem, because at the end of the day, you are still going to be achieving whatever you plan to do so. I'm saying this because sometimes somebody out there may be going through really a lot within this period of time and feels life is useless to them. We are saying such people are there. We need to ensure that we check on them as families. Let's ensure that at least we are there with them, be it in soul, be it in every aspect of life. They should not be left untouched, so that solely nobody is out there to suffer. Because sometimes we see our people, and when we talk about depression, by the way, depression is actually real. Many people are going through a lot. Others have reached the extent of giving up on life. Now they're resorting to drugs. Others are also really feeling they need to be alone. But I'm saying all in all, that can never solve your problems. Drugs alone can also be a solution to your problems. Let's ensure that we are there with our people closer, and let's ensure at least the relationship with them is not that one which is a bit far-fetched. Because if at the end of the day you see people are not really connected, you really realize that a lot is being left in there. And that's where we want to start up our discussion right away with what's happening in the rural city. And more recently, Norbert Mao did also come out to present and also make some demands in electoral reforms, where among others is to amend the constitution, where voting powers will be shifted from the citizens, that is to parliamentarians, who will be able to be the ones to decide on who will be able to lead the country. And this has not gone well with some people. And in northern Uganda yesterday, we did have also some of the groups coming out to condemn and reject the Constitution Amendment Bill of 2004 in there, which also was being presented before Cabinet, and that would also be scrutinized later on at Parliament, where the Parliament will be able to deliberate on that. And a group of youth, mostly from West Nile sub-region, have come out to reject what we call the Constitution Amendment Bill of 2004, saying that this undermines the integrity of the makers of the 1995 Constitution. And that is why they are saying the Constitution and Justice Affairs must not be able to touch on the Constitution. They are saying this is not actually well with them, and they will not also be allowed to see, if at all, and this will be presented to Parliament, and then the Parliament will be able to approve it, because for them the demand to have the Constitution amended is not right, because that is not only the demand, also in the Constitution Amendment Bill. If you look at so the reforms, one, it first of all warns serving officers. This could be both in the military and government, from aspiring and vying for these active political positions. Then secondly, when you look at the issues of the women representatives, it only guarantees them to serve a 2-year term. That means after maybe 10 years, you are not eligible as a woman member of parliament to now aspire again. But this is not well with the section of the youths whom we were able to also interact with yesterday, saying that this undermines the integrity of the 1995 constitution makers. What do you think about it? What do you really make of this demand also by the Justice and Constitutional Affairs Minister? And what do you make of the rejection of it by a section of youth from northern Uganda, who have said this is really unfair and they will not be able to solely support it? And more details of that will be coming through in our subsequent news bulletins, and you will be knowing what exactly the youth activists are saying and why they are rejecting the Constitutional Amendment Bill of 2004. The reasons are with them, and you will be able to sort of get the details in our subsequent news bulletins of the Elaza, which will be coming through at 9 a.m. with Fete Manuel, and we shall be having the Lembangea for those who speak Alur, that will be coming through from midday, and not forgetting Nilecast for the English speakers and everybody whom I believe must also be out there following. And that is also where we shall be having the details of all this story on the subsequent news bulletins. And still yesterday, I was able to sort of take a walk. That is the city court, and this is where we were able to sort of see the magistrate court. I was also already subjecting a number of people also to different charges in there. That means today they are carrying out operations on civil matters and matters which not go beyond 20 millions. And that means if you're going to be a public nuisance and also not respecting the trade order, definitely you are still doing street vending. You can be charged under the laws, the ordinances which are being passed also by the city councils in there, because for now I believe not have a bylaw as a city council, but we have ordinances. And the ordinance also really, it looks a lot at some of issues. These are laws so that are to govern the city center in here. That means for those of you who are within the 2 divisions and then the 4 at large, because if you look at Ivo division today, many people are talking about Ivo East and Ivo West. It means these may also be their divisions of their own anytime from now. But we are saying for now, we are still knowing Ivo division and Central division. But if you're coming from those areas, you risk being charged also at the magistrate court. That means you must avoid doing certain things for now, because we now have a city court in place, which also actually began operations on the 14th of this month, which was around Monday. It means today we are seeing it being actively operational. It means you can still be charged. Last week we did see some people being subjected to that, and this week as well we are able to see a number of suspects being paraded before the court. It means you out there who is planning to commit a small crime, thinking that you will go and sentenced in there, you risk being sentenced, because for this court, it's direct. We are seeing people also being brought before court, no adjournment, no remand, direct to yellow. So you must be able to solely avoid some of those activities, so that you do not risk being arrested in there. And that is where we are going to be also leaving the discussion aside. And I hope for you is planning to do certain things, then you must be aware that there's actually the city court that may at the end of the day deal with you. So let's avoid that as members of public, as people of Arua, as people of Western Sub-region. Let's be law-abiding citizens, because if at all you're not going to be respecting the laws, then you risk being arrested, you risk being sentenced, and you risk serving sentences also that may keep you in yellow for long. That is why we are going to be leaving the discussion aside and look at some of the stories elsewhere. We are seeing a lot of issues also still happening. And remember, recently the head of state, that is His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, did come out to accuse the National Unity Platform Party of rigging 1,000 votes, something that did not go on well with the National Unity Platform Party leaders, who actually say that this undermines the integrity of the Electoral Commission, and did ask also the president, who accused them of also what we call vote rigging, to also come out and explain how and take this matter for further also hearing in there. But we did see President Museveni coming out to claim that the National Unity Platform Party had stolen 1,000 votes that belonged to him in the last concluded general elections of 2021 in India, and says he has concrete evidence. And NUP can actually go to court if at all he is wrongly accusing them. But he has enough evidence that National Unity Platform Party rigged 1,000 votes. And now that effect, we are seeing also information coming that NRM is going to be hiring 145 individuals to guard the votes come 2026. It means for you who is out there, who is planning to also get maybe an opportunity, there are opportunities that are coming out for you where 145 persons are going to be hired to guard NRM's votes in here. And that's where we did see, and the move also comes after the president, His Excellency Yoweri Museveni, did accuse the National Platform Party of rigging the 2021 general elections, who actually fraudulently garnered 1 million votes. And that is one thing also which we did see coming out also really from, that is the president, His Excellency Yoweri Museveni, who actually did accuse National Platform Party of rigging 1 million votes. And Mr. Museveni said he has also had concrete evidence supporting his allegations to that effect. If National Platform Party was not necessarily happy about the accusations, or if they took the accusations as falsely, then they can actually go to court and file the court case against NRM in there. And now during the launch of the voter protectors exercise at the office of the national chairman in Kyambogo, Kampala, senior presidential advisor Hadija Namyalo also did come out that they will recruit people between the age of 20 to 40 years to undertake this exercise. That means if you're told you are lying within this age bracket, then there's an opportunity coming out for you where, according to the electoral commissions data, we are seeing that there are about 70,625 villages in the country, where we are also having 2,184 sub-counties. This means that the estimated kind of number that will be recruited is 145. 620 persons who will be recruited to also really guard the votes in there. And without also really ruling, and we are going to be seeing a lot of opportunities coming up, and without revealing how much the youth will be paid, Ms. Namialo said the vote protection exercise involves only selected what we call party representatives at all levels, along also the office of the national chairman. That's where we're going to be seeing persons be recruited. It means if you're told you are not a supporter of the NRM, then you risk also losing this opportunity in there. We are still seeing quite many and quite a lot of issues still coming out, where it was revealed that also the coordinators of the vote protectors also have been flagged off, and they will start also what we call identifying agents, and they warn the party MPs and ministers against disrupting party activities, claiming they have reached a consensus and an order from above. Also really what we are also going to be seeing in there, and that is where we are expecting the exercise to move as planned in there. Now the NRM first vice chairperson, Mr. Moses Chigongo, also launched the exercise and urged vote protection exercise coordinators to shun bribes also from happening there. Mr. Chigongo also went on to say that coordinators must fully understand the importance of their role, and also noting that while the party has won election votes in the past, some of also the votes were lost due to rigging, due to lack of individuals also who are there to safeguard the elections, and that is why, as a ruling government of NRM, they will be recruiting the 145,000 individuals to also guard the elections in there. Now we also want on that the party coordinators already against engaging in vote theft or causing what we call party unrest, urging them to already maintain self-respect and uphold what we call reputation of NRM in there. And that is where we are going to be living up with that discussion, and also we also seek opinions and ideas on whether this will be able to address the issue of vote rigging among also the members of NRM who have come out to also claim that vote rigging is actually taking place in their camp. We are going to be leaving that story aside and look at how the story is happening elsewhere. Remember, it being a Thursday, so many issues continue to happen, and over the weekend, we are going to be seeing still a lot happening, and that's where we are going to be also looking at some of the stories happening elsewhere, and we also need to ensure that this actually works out for each and everybody out there, and that's where we need to also have your ideas and have your opinions on what is making rounds across, that is the country in there, and that is where we are going to be looking at some of the stories. And this is also where we did see recently the Chitezi incident, and what resulted was that we did see some of the top bosses of Kampala Capital City Authority being fired in there, and this has not also really kept the public quiet. We are seeing a lot of issues and a lot of debate also coming up as a result of this matter. Yesterday, we were able to also hear some of the party leaders also coming out, and some of the leaders, in general political and non-political leaders, still coming out to also talk about the same exercise on who takes the credit. And one person whose name I wouldn't want to mention came out to also ask if it is a bad thing. In most cases, we target to Kampala Capital City Authority leaders, but if it's a good one, we tend to take the credit that is for the Lord Mayor. Why is that happening? And is that really happening? Because if you look at today's incident, everybody is to blame. But I really want to say, maybe a reason as to why Lukago may be blamed is that he actually gave earlier warnings. And you realize that he had given out a very long warning, and warning that today's incident would actually result in a catastrophe. And what exactly happened was the catastrophe that we did see happening in there. And we did see people being fired, and now we are seeing Luimbas, the Deputy Executive Director of Kampala Capital City, also saying we are only latecomers to today's disaster, and now sacked Deputy Executive Director of Kampala Capital City Authority, that is Mr. David Luimbas. He has denied what we call claims that our top leaders also they slept on job and are to blame for the Chitezi dam site disaster. And who is exactly to blame? Because as leaders, I believe, if they do not want to take the blame, then who is to take the blame? Because looking at the issue of Chitezi, you realize that a lot happened, and earlier warnings were actually given, but which warnings were not also taken seriously, and what exactly resulted was what we did see. And how can we avoid such occurrences in future is what somebody out there may be interested in knowing. And Mr. Limbas, who Mr. President also sacked alongside Executive Director Dorothy Saka, and Public Health Public Director, that's Daniel Okello, I told reporters at the City Hall yesterday that the management was aware of the crisis at the Chitezi landfill also, but could not do anything because of lack of finances. Who is to blame? They are complaining of lack of finances. Where does the resources come from, and who is to allocate the resources, and who exactly is to blame? Is it enough also for us to blame the leaders alone? And Mr. Limbas also went on to say that on July 2nd, over Chitezi by Dr. Okello, we are too late for them to avert also on the station here. Now, President dismissed the trio, finding also by the Inspector General of Government, pinned them also on negligence that led to the collapse of the landfill in there. The August 10th also catastrophe that buried also people, left at least 35 persons dead, and with many buildings also being destroyed in there. And Ms. Monira Ali, the spokesperson for the Inspectorate of Government, also told us journalists that on Tuesday that Mr. Chaka, as the accounting officer of KCA, ignored the closer notice from National Environment Act. That's why we did see NEM also went on to commit in KCA into what we call contractual deal with private also concessionaries to dump also the garbage that is at Chitezi landfill instead of also dumping it to Mukono. And that is one thing we did see happening in there. But now the man has rejected and also feels very much bad. How can we also ensure that we listen to both parties is what we need to solely find out in there. And remember, that is where we are going to be solely putting the story aside. And we did see KCA laborers being excited over the sacking of the bosses, and that is where we did see people solely dancing. As somebody is busy crying, you see others really jubilating. That is quite solely ironic. It paints an image. It shows how people have been working with you. That means as bosses, in most cases, we must mind of the welfare of the downer workers. Because in most cases, you realize that people tend to ignore the lower employees. For instance, the cleaners, the drivers, the guards. People tend not to give them attention. That means at the end of the day, when we see such issues happening, people will have to jubilate. Once you leave the office, people pray for your downfall. And once you leave the offices, trust me, people will be happy. It means as bosses, in most cases, let's mind of our reputations, let's mind of our relationship with some of the employees. And now we need some of the Kampala Capital City Authority cleaners celebrating the sacking of the top leaders, and we did see that happening, and they were also jubilating, saying that the sacked officials did not also do nothing, and they had gone several months without pay, and that is why they are feeling very much bad. And for somebody to go months without pay, definitely we usually know how the pain is. And now the casual workers at Kampala Capital City Authority are jubilating over the sacking of the top leaders of Kampala Capital City Authority and accusing them of being behind their salary delays. But is it true? Where could these people get the money from? Because if you look at Kampala Capital City Authority, people are getting money each and every day. Look at the shops. Look at the businesses that are generating money, and for the casual laborers to go without the money, then it is quite absurd. And now the more than 300 casual workers gathered at the Independence Monument grounds, that's in Kampala, yesterday morning, to express their gratitude. That is the president over the move, and that is where we did see armed with brooms, spades, and also really sacks plus reflector jackets. They thrilled also casual workers carried placards on which also they inscribed also the words such as tormentors, and God has been also on their side. Mr. Museveni, we stand with you, and Kampala must shine. And these are the messages these people carried on. Why are they not happy? And why are they happy with the sacking of the leaders? And now the group also came from the city's divisions of Rubaga, Central, and Machindi, Nakawa, and Kawempe, among others, where the workers faulted the Miskisaka of delaying payments in there, which also failed to provide them with personal protective equipment and the non-remittance of their National Security Social Fund contributions, which also did not make them very happy in there. And that is one thing we did happening in there. It means this should be able to sort of go as a warning. to bosses out there that your reputation very much is important. We must mind of how we are dealing. We must mind of how we are relating with other employees out there, because if at all we are not also relating well with them, then that would be quite absurd and quite embarrassing at the same time. And that means we need to also make sure that as we are sitting on those big chairs, let's mind of our employees who are standing. Let's mind of those employees who are squatting. Because if that's not the case, then we would also be at the end of the day the ones to suffer. And that will be quite embarrassing for us, and to also make sure that we land in trouble. And that will be also send a bad reputation and a bad image of us once we leave those offices. Because once we're in those offices, one of the most important messages that must always remain in our mind is that we are not going to be there permanently. At one time, whether we like it or not, due to natural or unnatural or artificial circumstances, we will leave those offices. But how do you leave that office? Are you going to be that kind of employee after leaving, people are going to be jubilating? Or you're going to be that one, once you'll be leaving, people are going to be crying? It means how you relate with your subordinates will determine that. So let's mind of how we're relating. Let's relate well with our employees. Let's relate well with our fellow junior staff. And then at the end of the day, that is where we are going to be living longer into those offices. And to live long in those offices is a reality. It's not a dream. It's not necessarily magic that you'll have to go to maybe witch doctors. But we're saying it is just through your reputation and through your behavior that you will be in position to also live longer in those offices. And leaving that story aside, Tamale Mirundi's family finally met Katikiro. That is to apologize over some of the statements that the man also made in there. Now the family of the late Joseph Tamale Mirundi met also with the Katikiro, the Prime Minister of Buganda, that is also Charles Peter Mayiga, to apologize for Mirundi's also the previous attacks on Buganda Kingdom and later on the Kabaka Mwenda during his talk shows and also on social media platforms. And that's where we didn't see the Katikiro Mayiga also met with the family on September 25th of this year, about a month after his death in there. And during Mirundi's Requiem Mass in August, Bunamoya Rubaga Division, his elder brother, that is John Sally, pledged before also the mourners that if he gets an opportunity to meet the Katikiro, he will apologize on behalf of the whole family over also some of the statements also that John Mirundi also made in there. And that's one thing we did see happening in there. Now, speaking also to the delegation at Bulange Mengo, on September 25th, also the Katikiro Mayiga said that the Buganda Kingdom knew about the demise of Mirundi, but remained also silent because they did not also know where it started from, and that's where they also kept quiet since the man had on several occasions attacked them via also the different talk shows and also via his social media platforms. And that means we must also avoid misusing the social media. As people also have their influence, let's avoid these unnecessary attacks, because if at all we're not going to be avoiding them, then that's where we are going to be seeing ourselves landing in trouble, where we're going to be also in problems with people. And we did see also the Katikiro emphasizing that seeking for an apology is a sign of respect, because the family is innocent, though they had to apologize on behalf of the man who actually died in there. Now, Mr. Sali also added that the family was surprised when they get also to a response from to meet the Katikiro, and they were also happy. It means their issue has also now been addressed in there. Now also went on to also the Katikiro advise people against misusing social media, because they not also have editors to oversee what is being posted. And that's one negative disadvantage of what we call the new media today. With the new media, unlike the traditional media, before something goes out, it is first of all well scrutinized and it is well shivved. But for the new media, people post whatever they want to post. And that is why today we are having the whole law of the Computer Misuse Act in place to look at some of these issues. But we are still seeing these matters going on. And how can we avoid all these issues? And how can we avoid people misusing social media? It means individual responsibility of social media usage is actually what we need to also embark on, because if at all we continue to misuse social media, then that is where we are going to be seeing a lot of issues, and that is where we are going to be seeing also really a number of issues also happening. And remember, that is also where we will be able to also have ourselves on trouble, and that is where also really we need to also really make sure that people who are misusing social media can also really be able to really avoid some of the challenges, because for social media, like the traditional media, they are editors. But with social media, I am my editor. But what if I choose to post anything bad? And that is why today we are seeing issues of people posting pornography, people posting what we call attacks, people also posting issues that are very much undermining. That's where today we are also going to be seeing many be charged under the Computer Misuse Act. And that is where we are still saying the youth don't also really misuse social media. And that's where we will be able to see you land in trouble. And that is where we are leaving that story aside with. And that is where we need to also now look at some of the stories. And that is where we did see also the First Lady Janet Katama Museveni also urging the youth not to leave the country. And we did see that also happening. We say that those who are, as young people, today you realize many of the young people are planning also to leave the country. And this is only because sometimes the available jobs in this country are not enough. And the young people are being forced to go for cheyo in the abroad countries. That's where we're going to be seeing people moving to Dubai. If you look at Dubai, you will realize that a lot of Ugandans out there. America, we have so many also in there. It means people are not happy about what is happening in Uganda. And as young people today, they feel to find greener pastures. They have nothing to do but leave the country. And what happens in most cases is that sometimes we hear of them being tortured, something which is really wrong, where organ trade is still going on. It means our safety as young people who are living in the country is not guaranteed, and that's why we are seeing the First Lady, Janet Katama Museveni, coming out to also say those who are wishing and also willing to leave the country should not do so, because to build Uganda calls for us all. There are still opportunities in Uganda for us to make Uganda a better nation in there, and that's why they are also being urged to avoid some of those issues of, first of all, planning to leave the country to go for jail. And that is one issue also which many people out there have been also talking about and saying that the opportunities in Uganda are not enough. And now the First Lady, who also doubles as the Minister for Education, that is Janet Katama Museveni, has cautioned the youth against also spending their early years in other countries looking for employment. And that is where today many people are not feeling very much happy about that. And he said that Uganda can build by us. It means we can actually make Uganda a Dubai. But is that possible? And what is the possibility of us making Uganda another Dubai? Now, according to Mr. Museveni, they admired also the countries were built by their citizens through hard work and sacrifice. Are the Ugandans who are planning to leave the country not working hard enough? And are the opportunities in this country able to support them when it comes to changing their livelihoods? These are questions which we are also asking out this morning. And if you look at the numbers, we are also seeing at least 120,459 casual workers from Uganda left between January 2022 and December of 2023 in search of jobs, and that's according to statistics from also Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development. Many of the young people out there, if you look at Dubai, we hear stories that if you move to Dubai, you hear people speaking the languages of Uganda here. Luganda, Lunyoro, Lutoro, Lubara, Acholi, are all there. You hear people speaking these languages once they're out there. It means most of the youths have left. But as a country, how can we make sure people change that mindset? How can we support the young people to also have opportunities in there? And with the opportunities government is trying to channel to the citizens, how much do they support the youth? Because these people who are living are mainly the youth. We don't expect elders to be living to also go for cheyo, much as the labor experts support that. How many youths are within this country and can be able to solely support themselves with the given opportunities available? And now the report already did from also did seeing also from labor explanation from the period of 2022, from 2024, also currently captures migrant workers cleared through the external employment management information system. What about those who are illegally living? These are numbers, so the numbers may actually be more than that. It means most of the population of this country, of the young people, are living and also going for broader opportunities in there. And now it also, that's where we did see the First Lady say that many youths in Africa, including Ugandans, have experienced several injuries in the country. They go to seek greener pastures. Then how, as government, can we be able to solely make sure that we change that mindset? We make them work within Uganda and to solely avoid having the dreams of living for those countries in there. Ms. Kaesu, one of the people also revealed that she was also then confined to a room, subject to torture, and that's where we did see also being burned with hot water, and milk and starved for 3 months, surviving solely on water. These are stories usually that come out from Ugandans who live for better opportunities. These are also where we see them also suffering, and many of the young people today are living to work as maids. And sometimes the companies also like them that we are going to be giving you jobs in the qualifications that you have qualified for. But what happens in most cases also as a result and outcomes is that people are subjected to pain, torture, and sometimes death, because we have had stories of people's organs being removed. But how can we make sure that this does not happen? Look at Ugandans who have been brought in coffins. Look at Ugandans who come back while injured. And sometimes the money they even work for are being consumed by family members who remain here, who lie to them. Quite absurd. Because sometimes people also go in there because they have certain goals that they want to achieve. And within Uganda, they may not be in position to also achieve those goals. But we're saying, let's support the young people. Let the young people be empowered. Let them also avoid going out. The opportunities in Uganda, if they can support them, then let them utilize these opportunities locally. And with that, we are going to be taking a short commercial break. This is the KOKOLIRIKO live show with me, Farish Majid, and our final destination remains 9 o'clock.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Vinicius Jr., Lamine Yamal, Antoine Griezmann. La Liga comes to Star Times.
A wild celebration!
The big stars, the tiki-taka football, Real Madrid and Barcelona live in your living room.
Real Madrid, a team of dreams!
Catch all 380 games live and in HD on Sports Premium Channel 259 and Channel 246 starting this August 15th. Subscribe to StarTimes Classic or Smart Bouquet at 36,000 Uganda shillings to enjoy the football experience affordably. StarTimes Football and Limited Passion.
West Nile TV.
Alright, welcome back from a short commercial break. We are back into the second hour of the show. This is the KOKOLIRIKO live show on West Nile TV with me, Faris Majid. And our final destination, of course, remains 9 o'clock. At 9 o'clock, we shall be having the news bulletin Lubarati. And then the final edition of the Northern Request there will also be coming shortly after that. And many other programs planned for you also on this day will be coming your way in there. And remember, all this is to make sure that you are not left out. We are there to make sure that you start off your day as an informed person. Because of the KOKOLIRIKO live show, this is where we are going to be letting you know what exactly is happening and what continues to make rounds in the corridors. And earlier on, I was able to tell you how the government of Uganda under NRM is planning to secure 145 individuals to guard their elections come 2026. And this comes at a time where there were early allegations that National Unity Platform Party had rigged 1 million votes in the last elections. And that is where we are going to be also leaving those stories aside and look at some of the stories happening elsewhere. We still have many more stories that we are going to be discussing with you in this hour in there. And remember, you to still can be part of the show and still be part of the discussions in there. And we shall be able to solely narrate and also explain what continues to make round in there. And that is where we are going to be leaving also that story and look at some of the stories that continue to make rounds. If you look at today, you will realize that a lot is happening in the country. It means we are there to also make sure you know all that's happening in there, so that solely nobody is left out in. And now government to rescue Ndere Cultural Center from the shading's 10 billion debt, and it's another story that we are seeing where the government of Uganda is in the process of bailing out Ndere Troop also limited from that shading that's 10 billion. That almost also resulted in its auctioning, and that's where we did see the ICT and National Guidance Minister, Dr. Chris Baryomunsi, also coming out to also say that they also going to be supporting and also following the President's directive that the Ministry also of Finance to start the process of saving the cultural center, and that means we are not going to be losing the facility in there, because if you look at this Ndere Cultural Center, it is actually a center for cultural preservation and cultural protection. If you look at our heritage, that is where it has been protected. First, looking at our dress culture, our dress code, our cultures, how we dress and how we dance. It has been mainly prevented from the culture center, and that's where we are seeing it also now being saved by the government, where the government of Uganda is actually coming out to also embark on a way to save it. And with this, the rescue so comes a few weeks after the proprietor, that is of the facility in Ndere Culture, Mr. Stephen Rwanjezi, cried out to President Museveni for help, and that's where we're now seeing the president also coming out to also rescue and bail the man. The shillings 10.4 billion Uganda shilling loan accumulated from the 6.8 billion also loan which also Mr. Rwanjezi acquired in 2019 to expand the troop in there. And that's speaking to reporters on September 5th. Mr. Rwanjezi said also that we wanted to start the institute, but we could not also run without public funding, and that's where to sustain it we need the resources also to which we borrowed also from close to 6.8 billion. We chose UDB also, it's because of its low interest, believing they were investing in Uganda future, and that's where we did see that happening. But if at all you borrow the money, still you have the initiative, you have the zeal, you have the mandate of returning back this money, and that's where people may not be feeling well. And Mr. Sempa in the video also explained that the first Deputy Prime Minister, Ms. Rebecca Litwala, also chaired the meeting also of the Prime Minister, where the government made the proclamation. Now, in 2019, Ndere True also Limited also acquired the said loan to diversify and expand the business horizons, and that's where we are going to be also leaving the story aside. Now, IGAD calls on youth for engagement in the governance. Is another story we are seeing where experts on peace, democracy, and human rights at the Intergovernmental Authority for Development Governance Forum have also called upon member states to engage the youth meaningfully to also for sustaining peace and conflict mitigation, and that's where we are seeing the head of political affairs And peace building at IGAD, Mr. Aliu Garang said that the youth make what we call the highest population of the IGAD also region, involving them in decision making as well as participation in governance is a sustainable solution that is to conflicts, because it's also often used to fuel the conflict in there. And they, as young people, if you remember also how young people can be empowered, if young people can also be able to be trained and asked on youth and peace, then you realize many people could actually champion a peaceful coexistence, and that is where internally it is actually youth. And Mr. Garang made the proclamations while speaking at the opening of the 3 days annual IGAD Governance Forum meeting, attended by representatives also from member states in Kampala, focusing on peace building and improving on democracy among the member states. And that's what we did see happening where the IGAD Member Governance also Forum was launched in the year 2021, and also to establish a regional platform for expressing and sharing what we call among the member states in governance, elections, rule of law, and human rights. And that's where we did see also that happening in there. Now the IGAD member states include Djibouti, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Kenya, Somalia, South Sudan, and Uganda, who are the member states also of the IGAD states in there. That's why we did see Mr. Alex Njoroge, a senior human rights officer from Kenya, saying also that the IGAD is one of the regions that has been greatly also affected by concurrent ongoing conflicts in Sudan, South Sudan, and Somalia. How can we then make these countries conflict-free? Is the question also which the member states should be able to ask themselves. And we see Mr. Njoroge noting that the issue of unemployment among member states is what is bringing conflict amongst dedicated youth, due to also the frustration of not finding jobs, and that's why they result into the streets and causing conflicts. And Ms. Jocelyn Bigirwa, the IGAD head of mission to Uganda, said that the peace and security are important components of the regional developments also in there. And she explained that the forum brings in together stakeholders that are partnering to bring peace and address the issues of governance development. That's in perspective also of the member states. And Ms. Birigwa said also that although member states have different sovereign rights, through IGAD, they are able to learn from one another and grow because they want to converge and also ensure that no one is left behind. And that's why the IGAD nations are today very much also trying to make sure that there's no conflict amongst themselves in there. And that's where we are also seeing people who have been also causing conflict, solely being arrested. But we're saying it is their constitutional mandate. If at all people want to demonstrate, let's leave them demonstrate. But rather we must make sure that their demonstrations do not also affect the other persons in there. And now a group coordinator, 2 others have been arrested over Lira anti-corruption protests, and that's why we're seeing also the police in Lira district, northern Uganda, have detained the opposition National Party for Langos sub-region and 2 other activists over holding anti-corruption also protests. And we did see Mr. Moses Mawa was intercepted alongside Dominic Obik Awio and other identified also activists as they attempt to march from Centenary Bank via Obote Avenue while chanting anti-corruption slogans. And that's where we also seeing them at the time where many people thought the campaigns of anti-corruption were actually going down. In Lira City, in Lira district, sorry, we are still seeing that happening, where the 2 or the 3 with also placards and Uganda flag, we also carrying also we are arrested and confiscated also before they are bundled onto a waiting police truck. And North Chiyoga Regional Police spokesperson, that's Mr. Jimmy Patrick Okema, has said the police had warned against the demo, but the protesters not also take it also seriously in there, and now they will be detained and later on be charged also according to the laws of this country. That's the information we are receiving from also the regional police spokesperson, that's Mr. Patrick Okema in there. And he said that also they notified the Resident City Commissioner, Mr. Lawrence Egole, about the protest through writing, since the head of security in the city is also really aware. But how can we allow the people also to move on with the demonstrations? Is another question. So somebody out there may be interested in knowing. Many times we talk about demonstrations, but these demonstrations are not allowed to go on. How can we ensure these demonstrations actually move on without people fighting them? These are questions only somebody out there may be interested in knowing. And that means we need to do something when it comes to issues of these demonstrations. And we did see that happening, and that's where we're also going to be following up on. And we hope all that issue of demonstrations in relation to march to parliament also will be addressed, because I believe let government come out and address some of these issues, because these issues are not addressed, then that will also be a chance, also a challenge as to where we would be able to see young people also coming out of the streets to have to raise their concerns and raise their issues on some of the issues that they feel burning. And one of the issues also that the young people today are complaining about is the issue of corruption, and how has corruption eaten up the country, and how has corruption affected the country is what many young people out there may want to also understand. Because if you look at the issue of corruption, many times people still tend to suffer from the issues of corruption. But how can we make sure that these issues don't go on? And this is where we would also really want to have your input, have your opinions on some of these issues that we are discussing this morning. But we are saying in this country, today we are seeing a lot of what we call rampant problems. And that's why we're seeing people coming out to protest. But we are saying protests may not be able to be a solution, but how can we make sure that people not also protest? And that's where I would be able to seek opinions on some of those issues, and I feel at the end of the day that would also be able to address some of these issues that we're talking about. Because if you look at these issues, then definitely you realize that many times this is actually an area that needs to be given keen attention to. The issue of corruption, that is also something that would be able to be addressed in there. Now, as many people have been talking about the China store, many people have been talking about this China market, where millions and millions of Ugandans had been moving this facility, and government had to come out to block it and close it over security issues. And this has gone days where the government has been quiet about this issue, and that's where we need to see now the State Minister for Finance in charge of investment and privatization, that is Ms. Evelyn Anita Soldi, has cautioned the business community in Uganda against importing goods that are similar to those produced locally, and officiating at the launch of a 2-day annual regional industrial conference held in Kampala on September 25th. Ms. Anita said the importation of such goods will disempower locally manufacturers and also render millions of Ugandans jobless. And that's where we are seeing those issues happening. And now this has, however, caused discomfort among Ugandan traders with the China store, which also rendered many of the traders feared. And that's where we need many of them getting scared, because some of the goods that they were selling expensively were being sold at cheaper prices by the Chinese. And that means many people will be thrown out of the market. And now the Minister for Investment and Privatization and the Minister of Finance, that is Honorable Evelyn Anite, has come out to caution investors against importing goods that are similar to those manufactured locally. Can this address the issues like what happened during the China store? These are issues also that needs to be understood and needs also to be discussed there, because if at all investors are now dealing in business that initially to be taken by the locals, what does that mean? And at the end of the day, where will our local investors be at? Look at our traders. How are they going to be earning money for themselves, and where exactly is that going to be putting them at? These are questions somebody out there may be interested in, but we're saying all in all, these issues also need to be given keen attention to. Government must have policies that deal with investors, because if at all an investor is to come, then I believe the investors' activity shouldn't also affect our local trader here, because this is somebody who is going to be working entirely to develop this country. But an investor may also talk about repatriating the monies back. That is where, after getting the profits, they will think of also taking back the money to the other countries in there. That is also very much dangerous. And more recently, hundreds of customers have also in the last few days been thrown in the Lugogo-based China store market to purchase goods cheaply in there. And now this has, however, caused discomfort among the Ugandan traders who also are competing for the same clients. And Mr. Evelyn Anita said that Uganda's population is growing at a fast pace and amid high unemployment levels, that industrialization is among the key sectors that should be promoted to create jobs and generate revenue for this country. And that's really where we will be able to see the economy of this country be spurred in there. And that's where we also are calling upon your opinions on whether such developments should be allowed. And according to her, there are about 10,000 factories in Uganda, employing over 1 million people in there. And it's also that the government was also attracting investors into the country to also really add value to the country's natural resources, including what we call minerals, to boost revenue generation. And while giving also the keynote address on agriculture, we did see Director of Agra Uganda say that agro-industrialization business would increase the contributions of agricultural sector to the country's gross development products. If you look at our GDP today, agriculture is actually one of those key sectors, according to Mr. David Wazemba, the country's director that's for Agra Uganda, who was actually giving the key address. Mr. Wazemba also went on to say that although the sector employs majority of the Ugandans, we are seeing its contributions already to the GDP has declined from 50%, that's in the year 1990, that is to current 24%, because majority still looked into subsistence farming. And that's where we are seeing, according to World Bank, employment in agriculture accounting to that 62.29% of the total employment in Uganda. Mr. Ozembo also said that value addition and transitioning Uganda products also into high value products would enable the country to tap into the regional and international markets. And that's where we need to also embark on the issues of value addition as a country. Let's give in key attention to value addition, because many of times they realize our products are not also really being added value addition. And that's why we're seeing also the conflicts regionally. Recently, Kenya came out to block some certain products from Uganda over value, also what we call quality checks. It means if at all we embarked on value addition on some of these products, then we would be able to slowly get a lot of money for ourselves in there. Let's look at our milk, which is said to be one of the best milks in the world. If at all we make the milk in final products, let's say we add value to make it in powdered form, and then we export it in the best quality, then market for our products will be awaiting for us. But sometimes when we have issues of aflatoxin, more so with the maize, when we start hearing words like Uganda's maize is infiltrated by aflatoxin, Uganda's maize is this and that, paints a bad image. It shows a bad example also for people to trust our products. And that is where government also must be able to embark on some of these issues to make sure that the products that are to move out are, first of all, the products that are very good. Because if you look at these issues, then many times you realize that a lot is happening, and that's where we wouldn't want to see also some of these issues happening, and that would also be very much bad, to send a very much bad example in there. And that's where we're going to be leaving that discussion aside to look at some of the stories happening elsewhere still, as we are just left with 9 minutes to wind up the second half, or the first half of the second hour. And that's where we are going to be coming into our final half. And in the final half, we are going to be looking at some of the stories happening internationally. I will be touching something also happening to some of us in the world of sports, and all that is to make sure that you are in the know and you continue to know what is happening also within your areas in there. And that's where we're going to be leaving that story aside. And now jetting into Masaka City, where court is now to settle ownership dispute that is of Masaka Children's Park land, and that's where we are going to be seeing a mediation to resolve also the long run between Masaka City authorities and a businesswoman also over the children's park that has already left the issue contentious in there. And last year, Miss Sylvia Naguja Luta dragged Masaka City Council to court over seeking also to halt a move by authorities to take over the 2.07 acre piece of land on plot 67 to 74 Agent Street, that's Masaka City. And that's where we did see last month Masaka High Court asked the two parties to mediate and settle the matter out of court. However, the process also already has hit a snag, with the council also already calling upon, also taking the matter to court and asking for court to resolve the matter. Because if you look at the issue of land today, you realize that many issues already surround land, and that's where we are going to see also our neighborhoods hardly looking eye to eye just because of issues of boundary. You will realize that also this neighbor is accusing the other neighbor of crossing boundaries and also entering onto the land. That is where issues of land today have become a challenge. Recently, the Judiciary Service Commission was in the city, and many of the cases that we actually reported were land related. It means the land units must be empowered, because most of the issues that surround the courts have been land related. Land matches is a product that does not lose value, but today we are seeing a lot of issues coming out over land ownership, where families are accusing each other of taking over their lands, where we're seeing families accusing others of selling their lands illegally. All those issues are happening, and I want to say, let's make sure that when we talk about the issues of land, then land should not be able to be also causing problems for us. Because if you look at our issues, land is something which at the end of the day we are going to be living in here, but we have seen the same land causing problems. People have killed each other over land. Recently in Yumbe, we had families also that killed each other over issues of land. But on a good note, we were able to sort of see them reuniting, and the Ringa Kingdom also did play a crucial role in terms of bringing unity among the family members. This is something we did see happening in there, and still, it was land. Land caused that, and that's why we're saying today, when it comes to issues of land, let's make sure that at least these matters not continue to go on in there. That's where we are going to leave that story aside, but we hope at the end of the day, that is where we will be able to slowly see these issues slowly arising and also be stopped in there. Now that's where we're going to be leaving also that story from Masaka City over the Children's Park land, which slowly a businesswoman is claiming ownership of. Our city council slowly as well is saying that land belongs to them, but we are now leaving that judgment entirely in the hand of court, who will be able to slowly decide on the real owner of this land. And that's where we're going to be leaving that story aside and look at also leaving Masaka to now head to Mukono, where Mukono Diocese and the Ministry of Education and Sports are at odds after the former rejected also after this former rejected the appointment of a new head teacher that's for Mukono High School in Mukono Municipality. And in May also this year, the ministry appointed Mr. Richard Katongole, the deputy head teacher of Mukono Bishop's Secondary School, to replace Mr. Frederick Mbazira Kaumi, who was set to retire in August after reaching the mandatory age of 60 years for public servants in there. However, Mr. Katongole informed the Reverend, also the Right Reverend Enos Kito Kagodo, the Bishop of Mukono Diocese and the school's Board of Governors, about his appointment, and we are swiftly also wrote the Ministry of Higher Education, Mr. John Muyingo, requesting that Kaumi remain in his position until the end of the term and hand over to a suitable replacement in there. And the Minister Muyingo rejected the request in a letter dated September 5th, noting that the policy also does not permit retaining employees beyond their retirement age in there. And the Minister also proposed what we call for discussions between the foundation body and permanent secretary also of Ministry of Education to find a suitable replacement for Mr. Kaumi in there. And following the rejection, Bishop Karagodo held also a press conference at Mpemu Archdeaconry headquarters in Tenjeru Town Council, where also emphasized that Mukono Diocese will not also really accept a head teacher who had not been fully scrutinized by them in there. And that's where they are rejecting also the appointment of this young the person also who is also to take over the school's affairs. Now it's that also in a written also that the ministry requested Mr. Kaumi's retention until the end of the year, and was advised to propose alternative candidates for the post. Now the bishop also added the founders of the school, the ministry should have also consulted them before making the appointment, which had not also been done by Mr. Kadongole's also case. And Mr. Daniel Lumu, the deputy chairperson of the school's board of governors, expressed concern over also posting of Mr. Kadongole to the school, saying that there's something also the ministry is hiding, though he did not also elaborate further on what thing that the ministry is hiding. Mr. Kadongole contacted and acknowledged also the ongoing dispute between the declined also engaged in public discussion, and that's where we are seeing that matter also happening in there. And meanwhile, Mr. Kaumi, who has been also praised for his 5-year tenure as the head teacher, expressed his desire to complete the academic year, particularly to oversee the candidates' UNEB examinations. Many parents also have lauded him for his development-oriented leadership at the school. It means the school is about to lose a good leader, and that's where we are seeing the school authorities and the management committee also rejecting his transfer, and also he's also dropping in there after his mandatory 60 years. And that is one thing also which we are following up on. But as a leader, as a head teacher who is currently in a school serving, when you will be retiring, will you be celebrated in terms of people letting go of you, in terms of wanting to retain you? These are questions also people must be able to ask themselves as servants, because as a public servant, you are there to serve everybody. But sometimes it is quite unfortunate that people forget that they are human beings. You find some of the head teachers really cannot listen to parents. They cannot listen to the learners. And that's where, once they are transferred, people are celebrating. And to avoid all that, let's mind of our attitude, let's mind of our behavior as we are serving the citizens. We must serve the citizens with integrity, and that would also really make sure people celebrate and honor you. And that's where we are going to be leaving this discussion aside, and I want to welcome you on board from wherever you're watching us from, as we are going to be running for yet another short commercial break, and that will be able to sort of usher us into our final half, where we shall be discussing some of the stories happening nationally, where we shall be discussing stories happening internationally, where we shall be letting you know what is making rounds in the world of sports. And that will be coming in our last half of the discussion. And remember, today being a Thursday, we shall be having the Northern Request Hour coming through also from, that's the hour of 10 to midday. That is where we shall be seeing the news bulletin also coming, the Lembaga news bulletin also falling up in there. Where later on we shall be having Street Talk with MC Sarge, the only guy who speaks in capital letters. And thereafter, the Wishu time will be coming through from 2 to 3 p.m. with Owen Zagan and the Susie, who will be here, and that will be ushering us straight in the movie time. That will be going up to 5 p.m. from 3 to 5 p.m. And thereafter, the Nilecast news bulletin, Chuku Chuku, will be coming from 5 to 7. DJ Mosh, Lisani, and Hassan the Big Brother will be coming through, and then the Nilecast with the Kumuringa Christine also still will be coming, and later on, we shall be seeing our day be summarized with the Kelele Show. For those who love comedy, for those who love fun, for those who love music, for those who love entertainment, that is the show for you. The Kelele Show will be coming for you, where you will also have an opportunity to call and send regards for your families. And today, I must say, I'm quite impressed that people of Kampala can be able to solely call and send greetings for their people in Karamoja, for their people in Arua City, and people of Arua can be able to solely greet their people in Kampala. And all that is happening on West Nile TV, and the Kolele Live Show will be giving it opportunity. And for those of you who love music, more so music from Northern Uganda, the Northern Request also still will be coming through your way, where you will have an opportunity to call and request for that one song that you want to listen to. And all these programs are first of all to keep you informed, educated, and entertained, where they will be leaving you not also untouched. We take a short commercial break. We return back into the final half of today's discussions.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
Vinicius Jr., Lamine Yamal, Antoine Griezmann. La Liga comes to Star Times.
A wild celebration!
The big stars, the tiki-taka football, Real Madrid and Barcelona live in your living room.
Real Madrid, the team of dreams!
Catch all 380 games live and in HD on Sports Premium Channel 259 and Channel 246 starting this August 15th. Subscribe to StarTimes Classic or Smart Bouquet at 36,000 Uganda shillings to enjoy the football experience affordably. StarTimes Football and Limited Passion.
West Nile TV, lighting up the region.
All right, welcome back to the short commercial break, and now we are receiving information where at least 19 Chief Justices are together in Kampala. That's for the Justice Summit, and that's where we are going to be seeing the summit, also the conference of that Chief Justice from the East and Southern Africa is set to take place. That's from Kampala on the October 30th of this month. That's November 5th, and that's where we are going to be seeing at least justices, chief justices from the different counties already who will be coming in Uganda. That's from next month on the 30th until the 5th of November in here. And that's a summit where we shall be seeing that also organized by Judiciary of Uganda and aims to discuss the strategies that's of enhancing justice delivery in the system, where with this Justice Mike Chibita, the organizing committee, that's also the organizing chairperson, also announced the event to take place also already, that's at the Judiciary headquarters, where more than 19 chief justices from various countries, for instance, from countries including Kenya, Angola, Malawi, Namibia, South Africa, Zambia, Tanzania are expected to attend this event. And the summit also is under the theme, Enhanced Access, that is justice underscoring reforms in African jurisdictions, and will also provide a platform for Chief Justice to share also experiences, discuss challenges, and develop action plan that's to improve justice delivery in their respective countries. And now that's where we shall be seeing that also conference happening. And the conference will also include participation from Chief Justices of non-member states, fostering broader dialogue and exchange ideas in now. The key topics also to be discussed at the summit include case backlogs, innovative also judicial practices, and challenges faced by the judiciary in the country. And today, if you look at case backlog, you will realize that most of the courts are being overwhelmed with cases. And then case backlog comes in there, and that's where we're seeing many people today losing trust in the judicial system because they think the judiciary is where cases take long. What about innovations? Today we are seeing innovations coming out on the courts where ICT is playing a great role, and actually ST has become a great deal where people can be charged from wherever they are just through digital also transformation. Now the key topics also that will be discussed in here include that, and we hope this will also be for the betterment of the judicial system. Now the event is expected to contribute to the development of more efficient and also accessible justice systems in East and Southern Africa, and that's where we shall be also expecting the judiciary to look at some of these issues and also make sure that this matter is also already be discussed very much well in there. And that's where we shall be leaving that story aside, and we hope all these matters will also be identified and discussed in there. And now MPs want ministers for Kampala to pay for state tragedy too is another story that we are seeing. Remember, I was earlier on talking about how the top officials are being asked. This is not enough for the members of parliament. They also want the ministers for Kampala to also pay for. Is that enough? We need to also address some of the issues. And now the sacking of the 3 top officials, that is at the Kampala Capital City Authority, that is solely has sparked heated debate among the members of the parliament, with mixed reactions regarding accountability for the Chitezi landfill disaster, that claimed that the 5 lives in the North officials, executive director, that's the officials, executive director Dorothy Tsaka, David Luimbazi, and Daniel Okello, were dismissed following also the landslide that also exposed significant mismanagement at the landfill that resulted into people losing their lives in there. And now with some MPs welcoming also the move, others have expressed frustration over the absence of accountability from the 2 ministers of Kampala, that is Minsa Kabanda and Kabuye Chofatagobye. We are seeing also the many MPs wanting this also to face the axe too, but will it be enough? And who exactly is to blame for these matters? And this is where we are seeing Timothy Batua, the Member of Parliament for Jinja South West, criticized the government for its failure to also really implement effective waste management policies and blamed government for that. And other also lawmakers echoed their sentiments, questioning the overall leadership during the crisis. And Mwada Kuyinzi, the Member of Parliament that's for Channel East, say the people who died in Stezi did not also really in avoidable circumstances, and they died also in unavoidable circumstances. Mr. Kuyinzi also further called for harsher repercussions. I said that it isn't enough that Chaka Luimbas and Okello are being fired, but now what exactly should be done? We want to see them punished, and we want to see the government also really compensate the victims and issue an apology to the nation. That's according to the Member of Parliament for Chadoro East, where this Stacey landfill also happened in there. Because if you look at Stacey landfill, it actually happened in Chadoro East, which was an area that was initially represented by His Excellency Yoweri, that is also represented by, that is Robert Chagulanyi Sentamu, who also represented that following the by-election in there, and he was replaced by Muwanda Kunyinzi, where he actually moved to aspire and vie for the presidential position. And that's one thing we did see happening in there. And as the investigations in the matter continue, such also operations remain active for the 11 individuals who still remain unaccounted for, because more of these bodies still maybe remain unfocused, and also still remain, that is only covered in the dump field. But exactly where are these 11 bodies? Where did they go? Should we say that they have rotten? This is a thing that we need to understand, because 11 bodies still remained unaccounted for, and people do not know where exactly these 11 are, and where are they hiding. These are things that we need to also define. Now the unfolding station has left many citizens questioning the effectiveness of their leadership and whether sufficient measures will be taken to ensure safety and accountability in future. And as the story develops, we shall be keeping you posted on what continues to come out of the Stacey landfill, because this is still a developing story, and many stories still continue to come out of in there, and we shall be keeping you informed and locked when it comes to that matter in there, and that is where we shall be letting you know how this will be continuing. And that's where we are now seeing people being fronted, names are being fronted to have these top officials being replaced, and that's where we're seeing names like Nakalema, names like Amhozi, names like Kajina being fronted. Also already have the job, that's of the executive director for KCA, being taken on. And now the 335-kilometer road trip, that is to Glue City, will also look like a sacrifice to make in coming days and weeks as miseries fuel up, and also endless calls to try to meet General Salim Saleh are ongoing. And the brother of President Museveni is also known to be one of the top political fixers in the country, and also really his ears, and also a number of times he would also nod when listening to someone also really advocating also really their value for Kampala Capital Authority. Top job is also really what many people are anticipating, and many people are thinking that this also really is something going on. But who exactly do you think is right to take over this position, which is still these positions that are now vacant, right from the top executive director up to some of the junior officials? Who exactly do you think qualifies for this KCA job? And that is where we are going to be also leaving that story aside, and we hope also that we'll also be able to solely address some of the concerns solely in there. And leaving that story aside, recently we were talking about constitutional amendment reforms, and now the UPC condemns ministers' call for civil servants to campaign for NRM. That is where we are seeing that the Uganda Post Congress has condemned the recent remarks by the minister that also called on civil servants to support the ruling government also to resign or to resign from the positions. And that's where we also see that call not being very much well also with also the UPC. And the statement also by the UP spokesperson, that's Sharon Arach Oyat, the party criticized the comments made by the Minister of State for Microfinance, Haruna also Cheine Kasolo, and the Minister for General Duties in the Office of the Prime Minister, that is also Justin Kasolo. Remember during a training event that's in Chankwa's district, where they also called upon civil servants to campaign for the ruling government, something that I must say is not well with a section of the members of the public. More so than UPC, which is one of the strongest, which is also one of the parties that also played the crucial role in leading this country to independence, are now also causing their messages, and now they're also echoing their dissatisfaction over the call by the minister to ask the civil servants to campaign for the government or resign. Because as a civil servant, you're not only serving the ruling government, you're serving everybody. And that is where they are feeling very much bad. And now the two ministers reportedly asked over 160 microfinance support center staff at the national leadership also institute to back the NRM, and also President Museveni, claiming that it was essential to the implementation of the ruling government manifesto in there. And however, UPC also has called upon the statements as a violation of Uganda Post public service regulations, because as a public servant, you are a servant of everybody. I believe you're not only going to be serving NRM, you are going to be serving everybody. And that is why they are feeling very much bad. And she also refers that the party's founding leader, Dr. Apollo Milton Obote, is stressing that also the need for cooperation between politicians and civil servants. So in Mr. Oyet went on to call also for focus on non-partisan execution of government policies to avoid also politicizing service delivery, especially ahead of election. Now the party also called for greater support, that is for civil servants, who it urged that also they should not be also coerced into what we call political allegiance, but allowed to perform their duties with also established laws and regulations. And that's where we're going to be leaving a story aside, as we just left with about 16 minutes to wind up with the discussions. But in these remaining minutes, we are going to be looking at some of the stories happening. And yesterday we also had stories where a teen who was defiled by a policeman was found positive, but the policeman who defiled is negative. What exactly is happening, and what went wrong? And now, according to a source privy to the matter, Corporal Cuthbert Emiti, attached to the Chief and Family Protection Unit at Old Kampala Police, was arrested early this week after being caught red-handed having sex with the teen, and that's where he was also taken for testing, and the teen was found positive, and the suspect is negative. What exactly happened? Who and what is not happening in there? And I said that in the coming out of the shelter, Colonel Corporal Emiti and a 15-year-old victim were found red-handed, and one of the police officers also arrested the suspect while the victim was taken for medical examination, and that's where a case of aggravated violence has since been opened, and also that's all the Kampala's police division, as investigation already in the matter continuing, and the suspect is currently being detained at Old Kampala Police Station pending investigations into the matter. But I can confirm to you that the officer is negative, but the defiled teen was found positive. What exactly is happening in there, and what exactly transpired, is the question so that somebody out there may be interested in. And that means, as people, let's avoid issues of defilement, because many times we are hearing cases of defilement, and defilement continues to happen in our society. And when you talk about defilement today, some of the girls have grown so fast to the extent that you may not also tell that indeed they are below age. It means, as parents, let's continue guiding our girl child. Let's guide our children about early sex because of the dangers. Because when you look at early sex, they realize that a lot of issues continue to happen in there, where girls are being also defiled, impregnated. Sometimes the people who also violate their rights run away. It means we need to also talk to our girls about issues of defilement. Because if you look at defilement today, they are going to be subject to diseases, they are going to be subject to also suffering. And at the end of the day, this is where we are going to be finding it difficult to also raise our children also in that. And as parents, my appeal would be that let's also really make sure that we give time for our families. Let's talk about early sex, because if people don't talk about sex, they're going to be finding this information from elsewhere. They're going to be finding information about early sex from their friends. They're going to find information about sex on their phones. They're going to find information about sex from bad people who want to use them. At the end of the day, the outcomes are clear. They're going to be affected, they're going to be impregnated, and suffering comes back to us as parents. So I think it's quite important where we need to also sit down with our families. Let's sit down with our children. Let's guide them. As mothers, let's tell them that early sex is very bad. And I was growing up, they used to tell us one thing that they used to tell us is that you must be patient for now. The schools used to tell us that you will have enough sex when you reach university. That is the guidance. And for us, we knew that when we reach there, yes, we're going to be doing it, but still we're saying, even if people reach university, let's still tell them that the environment is not good. There are many people out there who are infected, who are also willing to infect very many others. And that's where we must sort of tell our children, we must guide ourselves that also as we are out there, let's ensure that we are safe. Safety measures must be very much keen, because if you look at the issues of HIV today, you realize that it is actually very much high. The cases are very much high, where the numbers are already rising each and every day. It means people must also learn certain things and to avoid themselves landing in trouble. And that's where we are going to be leaving that story aside. And now to look at finally the issue of also really the President Museveni's call, where he asked people to invest in their retirement packages wisely. And we did see that also where he was guiding the generals. And remember, the government of Uganda is also planning to retire now generals who have also clocked the mandatory age of also retiring from the forces. And that's where we did see also Mr. Museveni also expressing his commitment to ensuring also that the retiring soldiers receive adequate financial support, acknowledging that also the years of low pay they have endured, and that means they should also be very much well supported and as they're heading back home. And the Minister for Defense and Veteran Affairs, Jacob Oboth acknowledged that the UPDF's role in shaping individuals from high school also graduates to PhD holders, and praised President Museveni's leadership for ensuring that while Lieutenant General Sam Okiding, the Deputy Chief of Defense Forces, also reflected on retirement significance, citing biblical also references. And remember, as a soldier, you will be serving for life. At one time, you will be able to have to put the uniforms down and go home and start sitting down with your soldiers. And now the ceremony also was organized to honor the following retiring generals. We have Major General Silva Kayemba, we have Brigadier General Christopher Kasaija, we have Brigadier General Charles Kisembo, we have Brigadier General Goddard Musinje, we have Brigadier General Fred Karara, who have also already clocked the age of retirement, and now they are being returned from the forces. And the event was attended by notable figures, including a Minister for State for Defense and Veteran Affairs, Huda Abason Oleru, who is our own, Commander of Land Forces Lieutenant General Kayanza Muhanga, Chief of Joint Staff, that's Major General Jack Bakasumba, and senior ministry officials alongside family members of the retiring generals who also attended the function also for these colleagues who are retiring from the forces in there. And that's where we are hoping and wishing them the very best, because they have been they have been used to the kind of environment where they were being told, kwenda huko, kujapo, fanya hivi. But now they're going to first of all live a life that is entirely self-driven. Yes, they are going to be doing a kind of activity which I must say is now self-motivated, where you have to guide new activities, where you have to guide on your roles, and you have to also ensure that you do what is within your wish. And that is where we shall be seeing also really that happening in there. And at the end of the day, that's where we're going to be leaving that discussion aside. And we hope at the end of the day, all these issues also really will be also really happening, and also many people will still be able to also really be in position to also really understand whatever is happening their way in here. And that brings us to the end of discussion, but not also really maybe telling us to head out. We have to summarize the entire discussions with what's happening in the world of sports. And when we talk about the world of sports, so many stories could unfold in the right from also the regional scene, and I can confirm to you that the regional clubs are already restructuring ahead of the return of the regional league. And one of the clubs which I'm going to be following this season is Arua City Football Club, which I must say is already restructuring, where they are going to be using Arua Primary School playgrounds. They are already restructuring and organizing the field, and I was able to solely see them spreading on the manure on that grassland. Also the field, which I must say is very nice, and we are now expecting a better performance from them this season, where we expect them to also be promoted to a big league. And that would actually be our expectations out of the club. And we are going to follow another club and many others also, of course, from the regional side, both from the Nyagak and the zone, where we are going to be letting you know of how these activities also will be also happening in there. And as starting the Uganda Premier League, today we shall be having games where we shall be seeing Bull Football Club taking on Sports Club Villa. Lugazi also will be taking on Vipers, where Lugazi is hoping to have their first win over Sports Club Vipers, which will be going on at the home of Lugazi Football Club. And that is also where we shall be seeing many games also coming up. And today, if you look at the Ghana Premier League, you will realize that NEC Football Club still sits on top, and we are still seeing very many other games being also to come. And that's where we are going to be seeing also all these teams restructuring and also really preparing also to have also the season move to their side in there. And last night we had games in the Carabao Cup and also the other leagues also happening in there. If I can briefly also give you a hint on some of the games that we played, this is also in the Europa League. We had also a game between that is also a club known as AS Alkamar and El Fasbor, and the game 3-2 in favor of that Alkamazar. And FC Bodo and FC Porto also did play, where we did see FC Porto being beaten 3-2 goals to 3-2 goals. Anderlecht and also Feyenoord also did play on, where Anderlecht also won this game by 2-1. Dynamo Kiev did play with Lazio, where Lazio was able to beat Dynamo Kiev by 3-0. FC Midland also had a game with Offen, and the game ended 1-1. Galatasaray did also beat PAOK FC by 3-1. Ludogorets also did play a game with Slavia Prague, and the game ended 2-0 in favor of Slavia Prague. Surprisingly, Manchester United was held to a 1-1 goal draw by FC Twente. Nice did play with Real Sociedad, and the game ended 1-1. And many games also did go on yesterday, and I want to assure you that many of these games also did go on. And in the FA Carabao Cup, Arsenal had a game last night where they were able to beat Bolton Wanderers by 5-1. Quite impressive, and I want to say this is actually a good game. And Liverpool also did wash, that's West Ham United, by 5-1. And tonight as well, we shall be expecting games that also will be coming also in your way in there. That means for those of you who love the Carabao, definitely very many games already still will be coming on this week, and I will be keeping you posted on some of the games that will also be coming on. And if you look at the Europa League, tonight there will be a game between Fenerbahce and Union also Glitios, and we shall be seeing Malmo FC taking on FC Rangers. Ajax will be taking on Besiktas, and many other games also still will be coming your way. And more details to what's happening in the world of sports will be coming through on the Whistle Time with Owen Zaga, and that will be from the hour of 2 to 3 p.m. But in here, we still have lots more programs so to come your way. And after here, I will be paving the way for the Oilers news team with Fete Emmanuel Anyali Bama Lubarodi Mia E Drer Tezuni, Redo Axini, Ngonde Muzuminio, Lubar Silfezu. Now, up next is the Oilers News Bulletin, and I want to say have a good day this Thursday morning, and many other interesting programs are still will be coming your way. And with that, I want to sign out and say good day and goodbye from me to you.